So, you know how people say that you should never say never? Well, I said never a few times in the past, and now things are changing. And the things that I said that I would never do, I am either seriously considering or am doing. And it's funny how that works because what started it was just one point. I just changed one part of my perception, one way that I was looking at myself, just one aspect of my life, and everything else around that started changing. Some things only a little bit, but other things quite a lot. And sure, along the way, did I make mistakes? Yes. Did I have some unpleasant experiences? Yes. Did I have some good times? Yes. But moral of the story is that never say never is actually a very good thing to keep in mind, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how things might change, and a lot of the time we don't know how we would change if we were in a different position or environment even. And I think that from that consideration, what we tend to do is we tend to get comfortable. We build our lives in a certain way. We build our routines. We have our days where we do the same things. We have the same people in our lives. We have the same stimulus, the same things that we like. The things that we don't like, we keep away from. So it's like we have this sameness and this comfortability that we develop within that. But because everything around us is the same, and because we do things the same way, we're never really challenged to consider things differently. So for me, it was that moment when I started challenging myself to start looking at things differently, to start stepping out of my comfort zone, that I actually started having the opportunities to face myself in different ways and in different scenarios and different parts of myself that I hadn't even faced before, different parts of myself that I didn't even know were there. And it sounds strange now, or it might sound strange to someone who's watching, like, oh, how could you not know there's a part of you that was there all along? And, well, I didn't know because I had created a comfortable routine for my life. And the points in which I stepped outside of the box were usually quite controlled. So that's a word that has been a big part of my journey, is control. And then obviously the opposite words of going with the flow, relaxing, letting go, letting loose, all of these different expressions that I had been kind of keeping quite rigid, quite almost like I dominated parts of myself and I didn't even let myself go there. So let me get back to that comfortable zone that we get into. Now, the thing that makes it so difficult to change our comfort zones is that even if what we're doing in our lives within our comfort zones isn't really like what we want, it isn't quite ideal, it isn't quite right, we carry on doing it because it's familiar, it's what we know. Even if I know that tomorrow is not going to be great, at least I know what's going to come, I know what's going to happen. And there's a kind of a sense of safety and comfort in that. And that's where we kid ourselves. That's where we fall into that trap, thinking that just because we know what's going to happen, apparently, that things are good and right in the way they should be. Well, it's quite interesting actually. It's like it brings up the question of, is that all life is? But then when we look at, okay, how is the world currently now? It's a pretty unpredictable, dangerous dog-eat-dog kind of world. So it's like we've developed this defense mechanism to try and find constancy and consistency where we can, and try and build it where we can, and hold on to it with dear life. And obviously, it doesn't, I'm not saying that comfort zones are wrong. I'm not saying that we should never ever do the same thing consistently just because that means that we're in a comfort zone. What I'm saying is that that tendency that we have to keep ourselves rigid, to keep our perspectives and perceptions closed and tight and controlled, that is where we miss out, because we won't even let ourselves consider what else might exist outside of our comfort zone. So instead of doing that, one of the things that you can do is practice the point of having an open mind. We'll put it that way. Meaning that if you automatically want to say, no, absolutely not, no way, never ever will I ever, to a particular point, an opportunity, a question even, pause before you speak, and pause before you convince yourself why you should say no and why you will never ever ever do that thing, and just consider, okay, what if you test this point out? It doesn't mean that you have to commit to it. It doesn't mean that that becomes your life. It doesn't mean that you have to go all the way down that path, but you can dip your toes in the water and see what it's like, and broaden your horizon a little bit, and see who you are in different situations. Obviously, I'm not talking about like dangerous situations, things like that. I'm just talking about things like going someplace new, meeting new people, going into a new kind of environment, looking at how you'd like to create your life differently, looking at how you'd like to build your relationships differently, looking at how you would like to school your horse differently. Things like that. It's the stuff that we do every single day. That's actually where the heart of our lives is in the moments in between the big things, and in the big things of course, but it's waking up, it's going to bed, it's brushing your teeth, it's going to work, it's having a conversation. All of those small things that we so often try to tell ourselves are insignificant, those are parts of us, they're parts of our lives. So, push yourself to expand your horizons. Push yourself to try something new, something different. Even if it's just looking at things a little bit differently, considering a different perspective. And see what else that might open up for you. Alright, I'm going to go to there for now. If you would like to support me, you can do so on Patreon, where you can find the link in the description below. If you have any questions or comments or anything you'd like to say, you can send me a direct message, or you can leave a comment, whichever way. And I shall see you next time. Bye.